Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Hugo, and today we're going to see what's going to be the best stocks for this week. We're going to do analysis of 3 stocks, and then we're going to do as well analysis on the market and on the Bitcoin. So stay around. So the first ticker for this week is going to be BDEV.L, which is a British stock on UK market exchange, and they're called Barrett Development PLC. They are in the market development and house building and commercial development business in Britain, and they have a dividend yield of 6.39%. They only pay biannual. Usually, most of the stocks that are from UK stock exchange only pay biannually, except we have some exceptions. Like for example, we have BP.L and also BATS that pay quarterly. The Legend actually only pays biannually, but I still have in my portfolio. They are undervalued 57.8%. The ex-dividend date is going to be on the 7th of April, so we're going to have plenty of time to buy this one. At least we have the 2 days that eToro needs to process our order in order to receive the dividends, and this is quite important for you to bear in mind. So the financial health score, now I've changed this. Now I have a financial score of 6 of 6, and this contains 6 key indicators, which contains the short-term liabilities, the long-term liabilities, the debit level, the debit reduction, debit coverage, and interest coverage. This do analysis of these 60 components, which before I have only the good or bad, and now I've decided to change this to be more accurate. So in terms of assets, they have around 6 billion, and in terms of liabilities, around 1.4 billion. The market sentiment is going to be a buy, and the future growth, we have a 0.9% of future growth, where the past performance was minus 2.3%. As you can see in the graph, the stock went down quite a lot during this week. I do recommend you to have some considerations regarding this stock, because we may be seeing a recession, and one of the stocks that's going to be affected, or one of the sectors that's going to be affected, is the housing, and therefore I don't recommend to buy this stock right now, unless if you're going just for the dividend yield. But although it's going to be a bit risky because of what's happening in the market at the moment. The next ticker, DLG.L, Direct Line Insurance Group. They have a dividend yield of 8.24%, which is really good. Actually, it's much bigger than the Legend, and they also are in the same sector of insurances. I do think this could be a really interesting stock to have on my portfolio. I may be considering if I'll change this from Legend, but I need to do more analysis on this. Although they are undervalued 60%, which is quite good. The ex-dividend date is going to be on the 7th of April. And the financial health, we have a 5 of 6. This means that they not comply with the short-term liabilities, because they have, in terms of assets, around 3 billion, and in terms of liabilities, around 5 billion, which is a lot. But having in consideration this is insurance, it's not bad. It's their sector. They play around with liabilities and assets. So the future growth, we have a nice future growth with the 7.7%. We have a past performance of 0.2%, not bad. Having this in consideration, and with a market sentiment of a buy, I think we could be in a good place to have this stock on our portfolio. Although one of the things that I want to mention, in case of recession, usually, this may not happen, but usually insurances and financial sector is not quite affected. But again, it's one of the things that you need to have in your back of your mind. Be always ready to a recession in upcoming months or year. The next ticker for this week is going to be Brandywine Realty Trust. They have a dividend yield of 5.37%. This actually is not a UK stock. They pay quarterly, January, April, July, and October. They are undervalued 49.5%. The ex-dividend date is going to be on the 5th of April. You're not going to have enough time to buy this one in order to the eToro to process, but it's something that you may be buying for the next quarter, and I'm going to explain you why. Although there's a thing here, we have some red flags here, which is the financial health. We have 0 of 6, meaning that they don't comply with any of the key health score, meaning that they don't comply with the short-term liabilities, the long-term liabilities, debit level, reduction cost, and also coverage and the interest coverage. So there are a few indicators here that they don't cover, meaning that in terms of financial health is quite bad, and in terms of assets they have around 207 million, and in terms of liabilities 209 million. Although we do have here a future growth, an interesting future growth of 19.7%, since the past performance was 24.5%. This future growth is quite interesting. And we do also have indication here that the stock went down quite a lot in the past week. So this could be nice to have on our portfolio. Although I did already mention a few stocks regarding this type of industry on office rates and real estate, where they are much better in terms of financial health and in terms of dividend yield as well. I do recommend you to have a look on my lists of stocks that I do analyze every single week. And there's a few that you may be more interesting than this one. For the last week markets, one of the things that got really affected was actually the Chinese market. We had a really good positive increase on the Chinese market, which is quite good. So what happened was the Chinese now allow the American companies to see the audits of the companies. Therefore, they are more clear, and the trust has returned back to the companies that are trying to invest in the Chinese stocks. Therefore, the Chinese stocks increase a lot. Bear in mind that the Chinese stocks went down almost around 40% in the past year, and this 2.37%, there's still a lot to go. We have some stocks that went down quite, like Alibaba, Tencent went down quite a lot, around 40%, and they are still in a negative comparing from the last year. So there's still a lot to grow, but I think we are in a good path for to start to invest back on the Chinese stocks, if the Chinese don't decide to support Russia. But I think that's not going to happen. If that happens, we may see a big crash on the Chinese market. Anyway, you need to have some considerations in terms of where and when we're going to invest on the Chinese market. In the last week sectors, we did see here the semiconductors sector being quite affected, and we're going to see this more towards on the heat map, where you can see which companies were affected. Usually it's Intel, AMD, and Nvidia, and we also AVGO was quite affected. I do recall that I had around the profitability of around 40% or almost 50% in AVGO, and they went down quite a lot. Intel, it's still negative due to the past performance was quite awful, but I do think Intel may increase now with the ARC graphic cards, which is going to increase a lot the stocks. I hope they bring back the rest of the lineup, the ARC 3, ARC 5, and ARC 7, and also on for the desktops, because at the moment they are only selling for laptops, the GPUs, although the performance is being quite good, and I do think we may see here an increase on Intel. Anyway, in terms of the biotechnology, we did have here increase with a 3.82%, which was quite good, and I did manage to sell ABVV with 100% of profits in that stock, which allow me to, at the moment I still have in balance, but I'm going to invest in others stocks that are more affected with this drop. So as you can see here, in terms of the heat map, we did have here the financial sector now being quite affected. So as mentioned before, on the semiconductors, we are seeing here the Nvidia, VGO, Intel being quite affected. Intel with -7%, AMD with 9%, and AVGO with 0.3%, and Nvidia with 3.54%. Apple being only affected with 0.23%. I did sell actually on the past week Apple, because I did wanted to sell all my entire stocks that I had in Apple and try to invest in others. That's going to give me more growth than Apple is giving so far, like for example the TQQQ. So since the war started, we saw a big increase on the gas and petrol, but this week they started to go down, and this could be due to the fact of the negotiations that are being done with the United States and also Europe with Emirates countries. So we're trying to buy now energy from the Arabic countries like Dubai, and trying to rely less on Russia due to the sanctions. So we are seeing here ExxonMobil and Chevron quite affected during this week. In the past week, I started to look into the consumer non-durables like Coca-Cola and Procter & Gamble and PepsiCo. I did post a tweet with this information where you can see what's going to be the best stock for you. In this case, for me, I think Coca-Cola is still one of the best and Procter & Gamble as well. But since I do have already Coca-Cola, I'm trying to diversify my portfolio as maximum as I can. So now let's have a look into the markets and the Bitcoin for this week. So in terms of the market, we may see a rise of around 10.78%. The market has a bullish bias, and we could see above the 40,110 as seeing here the next targets. We have here the RSI starting to call a new up leg, which basically is going to have the same trend that we have here in the past, in the 2 years ago. I mean, we may see starting to see a new trend, and up leg is when we have a shift, when we're going to what they some call the second phase of the market, and this is going to be now the second phase, as we see here in the past 2 years. We're going to start to see here the new trend as well. In terms of the Bitcoin, we may see a rise of around 4,000 to 7,000 pips towards the 54,000, but this is going to be quite optimistic. This also depends on what's going to happen with the markets. We have see if it's going to have some tendency or not. In the immediate term, this is going to remain up with a strong momentum, as we can see here. The price is going to be validated, where theoretically we're going to pointing to a targets for the 51,000 to the 44,000. Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed the tips for this week. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the like. Once again, if you want me to do analysis on other stocks, please let me know, and I'll try to put it on the next upcoming week, or even try to comment if it's more urgent for you. Once again, guys, thank you, cheers, and have a nice week.